Hey guys, I'm Alex. Welcome to the channel. This is my first YouTube video that I film specifically for YouTube, and I'm going to answer some of your questions that you asked over on Instagram. We have a good mix. Some of them are really frequently asked questions, so rather basic, and some of them are very creative. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to put timestamps into the description below. And without further ado, let's get started. So, I'm going to group similar questions together. First question, Ames Kettlebell asks, how often do you train and how long are your training sessions? And we have a similar question by Tom Kennedy, BJJ. How many sessions do you personally train per week, and could you provide a sample week? And Isaiah JV also asks the questions. How long are your workouts? Is it a decent approach for hypertrophy? Okay, so I train minimum of 4 days per week, and I'm probably averaging 5 days per week. So sometimes 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 6. So that's between aerobic training, so cardio, and strength training and kettlebell training. Usually it's kettlebells 3 times per week, okay, and cardio 2 to 3 times per week. So the sessions themselves can get rather long, okay. So I usually warm up for 30 minutes because I need to work on my flexibility. I don't have the best shoulder overhead flexibility, so I need to make sure I work on that. I like to do some light aerobic training, like a little bit of quick walking, 10 minutes to get the energy systems running. So that's my warm-up, about 30 minutes. And then I'm going into the kettlebell work for 30 minutes, and that's intense work, okay? So it's 30 minutes, it's the main part, and that's either intervals or long sets. So it may be, for example, what you guys know, jerks, 12 minutes, 12 sets of 1 minute on, 1 minute off, something like that. Okay, so short work but intense. And then depending on how much time I have and how much energy I have, I do GPP another 15 to 30 minutes. So that may be some hypertrophy work, like rows, like dips, some strength endurance work, that may be some plyometric work like jump squats, that may be some strength work, even some barbell work, okay? So just developing all the different physical qualities to keep me healthy and keep my GPP, my general physical preparedness, as high as possible. So to sum it up, ideally, like if I have the time, if I have the energy, a training session lasts 1.5 hours. It's 30 minutes warm up, 30 minutes main part, and 30 minutes is GPP. A sample week would be, for example, on Monday I do jerks, okay, it's jerk day. Then on Tuesday I maybe do some cardio, maybe I go for a run for 1 hour. Wednesday maybe snatch day, okay, I'm doing snatch intervals. Maybe Thursday it's cardio again, and on Friday I may do biathlon like jerk and snatch, or I may do some functional complex. So another day of kettlebell work. That's the main structure of my training week. And Isaiah JV also asked whether it's a decent approach for hypertrophy, and I'm going to answer that with the next question. Slandrum asked, how have you built so much muscle with just swinging exercises? So I found that's really a funny way to put it, because there's this widespread belief still that you can't build muscle with kettlebells. Or my Instagram friend Levi, he always gets accused of doing secret barbell work. And the thing is that you can get bigger, you can build muscle with kettlebells, but you have to put in the work, okay? So there's a lot of guys who train with kettlebells and they do like 10 sets of swings. Okay, so like 10 by 10 of swings, and that's their workout. Okay, that's not going to cut it. You need to put in more volume, more work, because you need that time under tension, and if you do, you're going to get bigger, because that's just the way it works. Nothing works unless you do. And I work at the gym as a trainer, and most people who do traditional bodybuilding, they don't look big. Okay, they don't have a lot of muscle, they don't have great physiques. And you could make the same argument and say, oh, bodybuilding doesn't work. Bodybuilding does work if you put in the work, if you really apply yourself. And it's the same thing with kettlebells. Just because you see somebody who's skinny and trains with kettlebells, it doesn't mean kettlebells don't work. It means the way he trains with kettlebells doesn't work. And one word there's about kettlebell sport. So kettlebell sport, as you know, it's the competitive endeavor of kettlebell lifting. For example, I do biathlon, so you have to jerk a pair of kettlebells for 10 minutes and then after some rest, snatch a kettlebell for 10 minutes. And I think kettlebell sport is really underrated for hypertrophy. And people like to point at kettlebell sport athletes who are really skinny, and those exist. Okay, there are some kettlebell sport athletes who put up really great numbers, and they are tiny, like don't have a lot of visible musculature. But there are different reasons for that. The first one would be genetics. Okay, some people just don't build muscle as easily, and they also training history plays a part here. So maybe somebody comes from an endurance background, and that's why they are rather skinny, and they would be skinny anyways, even if no matter what. Like, I'm never going to look like Brian Shaw. Okay, I don't have the genetics, so genetics determine to some extent how we're going to end up looking. That's the first reason why some kettlebell sport athletes are skinny. The second reason is it's a sport with weight classes. So obviously, if you're in a lower weight class, you have to lift less reps, so it's beneficial to compete in a lower weight class. So that's why many of the athletes cut weight, or they try to keep their body weight down, so they're not eating for hypertrophy. So that's another reason why this may be skinny. And the third one is a lot of the top guys have perfect technique and flexibility. Okay, and most of you don't have that. So if you start kettlebell sport at 10 years old, those are the like purebreds kettlebell sport athletes, and they have ideal technique, ideal flexibility, and that's where they are working maximally efficiently. But if you're starting at, I don't know, 30 years old, your technique isn't going to be ideal. So you're going to, whether you want it or not, of course you're striving for good technique, but you're going to apply more muscle than the super skinny master of sports you see at, I don't know, Russian nationals. Okay, so you're going to have a bigger effect on hypertrophy compared to him. Next question, Sander Civic FK2 asks, what would you advise as a good workout? I'm in the military and fell in love with kettlebells. So that's a great question. There are a couple different approaches you can take here. The first one is, like, there are two schools, as most of you know, in kettlebell lifting. There's like hardstyle, the Western approach, and there's kettlebell sport. And hardstyle, it's a little easier to get started with. So if you don't have a coach, you definitely can start right away with hardstyle protocols, and I'm going to give you two, okay, that are really popular. The first one is iron cardio, okay, and that's just doing, you just need one kettlebell and you do a clean, a press, and while holding the kettlebell in the rack position, you do a squat. Okay, that's one set. and you're just doing a lot of those sets with some rest in between, for example, on the minute. Okay, so minute 1, you do 1 set on the right, minute 2, you do a set on the left. And a lot of people say also like hard style doesn't work, especially a lot of kettlebell sport people, and that's not true exactly, because it comes back to the application. So the way a lot of people do hard style training doesn't work, but if you put in the work, it's going to work. And I'm going to give you an example. There's a dude on Instagram, his name is Kettlstrong, okay, and I just recently saw him do iron cardio, so 1 clean, 1 press, 1 squat for 100 sets in 1 hour with the 48 kg. Okay, so that's 50 per side, so that's a lot of work. And if you do that, if you apply yourself, if you put in that much work, there's no doubt you're going to get stronger, get bigger, get more conditioned from that. But if you just take like a 16 kg, and that may be all right if you're a beginner, but you have to push and increase the training stress. If you just take a 16 kg and do like 20 sets, it's not going to do much. And that's why kettlebell sport people tend to get good results, because they're working really hard. So that's the first one you can do, iron cardio. Second one would be A&A, and that's one I did a lot in my hardstyle days. And A&A basically means you take I have in my Instagram highlights, I have a detailed guide. It's called Guide to A&A, so you can look at that. What you do is you take a ballistic or explosive exercise, for example the snatch, okay, and you do 5 reps. Okay, 5 reps, put it down, then relax a little bit, then do 5 reps on the left. Okay, and each set counts as 1. Okay, so the total number of sets is the sum of both arms. Okay, and you just keep doing that for a minimum of 20 to 30. It's called repeats. A minimum of 20 to 30 repeats with a heavy kettlebell. Okay, so I used to do 20 to 30 with the 40 kg kettlebell. And you can do up to 100 repeats. Okay, so I did, it's a challenge actually, it's called the Hundo. I did 100 sets with the 32 kg. And another example of somebody who's really strong and conditioned, who's using mainly hardstyle methods, it's Harald Motz. You can also find him on Instagram. And he did, if I remember correctly, 5 reps on the minute with 32 for 2 hours straight, so 120 sets. So that's 2 protocols you can use right away, and those are good if you have a lot of stress in your, whether, I don't know, maybe you're on deployment or maybe you're doing field exercises or something, okay? And if you have a little bit less stress, more free time, less physical activity during your duty, you can start getting into kettlebell sport. That's in fact what I would recommend. So start doing jerks, long cycle intervals, for example 1 minute on, 1 minute off. Do long snatch sets, because this is going to carry over very good. And I've heard it from many soldiers, like from actually a special operator I'm in contact with. He told me he was on deployment. There was a guy on his team just never got tired, you know. He's just like, guy would keep going, and turned out he was a kettlebell sport lifter, because that's exactly what kettlebell sport is going to develop. Okay, the ability to endure under load, support load for a long period of time, and keep going, never get tired. For kettlebell sport, just you can look at my page and just look at some of the workouts I did and try it out. But if you want really good results, I recommend you get a coach, because it's really hard to figure out on your own in the beginning. So kettlebell workouts for military applications. I hope that helps. Next question, Indian Ronin asked, bro, How's your sport kettlebell training affected your total baseline strength? So that's a really interesting question. First one, the obvious kind of answer, so what you would expect, is my strength endurance is really good. Okay, I keep it at a high level all the time. There's a lot of carryover, so I did just yesterday I did a set of 50 dips. I have done it twice now. I did a set of 92 clean push-ups in a row, and overall my legs, my arms, my trunk, the endurance, the strength endurance and power endurance is the best it's ever been. In terms of max strength, okay, so like one repetition, I tried to press a 40 kg kettlebell like a week ago, and I actually could get it up. Like I did press it on my right side without training, so that's pretty good. I didn't try the left side because my shoulder was bothering me, but it's a little bit below my best. Okay, so I used to be able to press the 40 at my best for 3 reps, if I remember correctly. And also last year when I got into kettlebell sport, I did 2 deadlift attempts. So one time I pulled a conventional deadlift for a single, and I did 200 kg, 200 kilograms, and the other time I did a sumo deadlift also for 200 kilograms. And that's a good level. Okay, that's a good level for me because that's over 2.5 times body weight, so I'm able to maintain that, but it's below my best. I mean, obviously that's what you would expect because my best deadlift was 230 kg conventional. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. So it's really good for developing strength endurance. So that's going to, if you train kettlebell sport, your strength endurance, it's going to be the best it's ever been. But for strength, you're probably going to maintain like 80-90% of your best lifts. But obviously it's not going to be as high as if you train specifically for it. Next question. Okay, that's a really interesting one. Simone Camarata asks, does the VO2max matter in kettlebell sport? And I actually prepared something here. I got this book. It's called Training for the Uphill Athlete, and it's a great book, highly recommended, on the methodology of endurance training. And it goes into this very topic, like not related to kettlebell sport, but kettlebell sport is a cyclical endurance activity, okay, and that's why the methodology of endurance applies. And first off, what's VO2max? For those that don't know, let's look up a definition. VO2max is defined as the maximum volume of oxygen you are capable of taking up and utilizing during intense exercise. This quantity is measured in milliliters of oxygen used in a minute, divided by the body weight in kilograms. This quality is one that responds best to training in the young or the undertrained and can be difficult to change in the well-trained. So basically VO2max is the maximum amount of oxygen your heart can provide, okay? Now, does it matter in kettlebell sport or in endurance sport in general? Yes, but with a caveat. It matters in the same way that height matters in basketball. Like we just heard, it's not very trainable in somebody who has been training for a longer period of time. So, I said that kettlebell sport is a cyclical endurance sport, and endurance can be defined as the ability to resist fatigue, right? So to just keep going and keep going and keep going and do another rep, run another set. And there are 3 factors, according to this book, that determine endurance performance. The first one is the VO2max. We talked about that. It's the strength of your heart. The second one is movement economy. That's how efficient are you moving. And that's highly trainable. And we know that's extremely important in kettlebell sport, because every little inefficiency adds up. And the third factor that determines endurance is the lactate threshold. And the lactate threshold is defined as the maximum work rate, the maximum work rate you can sustain for a long duration. I'm not going to go into detail on that now, but it's highly trainable as well. Okay, so we have like 3 legs of our endurance stool. Okay, and of those 3, there are 2 that are highly trainable, and another one, like VO2max, it's not as trainable. And I'm going to read another passage from this great book. VO2max is what is called a first wave response to training. The term refers to a quality that tends to develop quickly in the young and those new to endurance training. That is largely because the heart responds rapidly to training and increases the aforementioned stroke volume. So stroke volume is how much blood the heart can pump in one beat, and other characteristics that increase the volume of blood ejected from the heart. And there are many cases of endurance athletes who improve their performance over their career, while their VO2max is actually getting worse. So if you're untrained or if you're very young, your VO2max is going to improve when you start training. But it's not something you should worry about. Okay, there's no point in like doing VO2max tests and trying to train specifically to improve VO2max, because it doesn't necessarily mean that your performance is going to increase, and your energy would be better invested focusing on other things. Hope that answers the question. Lu Van Den Boom asks, how to reach 100 snatches in 5 minutes. How to prepare for the snatch test. So I'm going to give you 2 answers. Okay, the first one is something that's quick and actionable. So if you have a snatch test coming up in, I don't know, 2 months, because you have to research your strong first certification, or I don't know, this is a simple protocol that you can do. And the second answer is going to be kind of like a shift in philosophy. Okay, first answer, it's like a quick route. It's basically a peaking protocol. If you have the base to snatch 100 reps in 5 minutes, it's going to get you there. And this is a protocol from Craig Marker. Okay, Craig Marker, smart guy from, I think he's still affiliated with Strong First, don't quote me on that. And works like this. So you do 5 snatches on 30 seconds. So every 30 seconds you do 5 reps, okay, alternating left and right. If you do that for 5 minutes, you have done 50 reps, okay? You need 100. But it's just like the first week, okay? The first week you do 5 reps every 30 seconds, do that 2 times a week, or maybe 3 times. 2 times is going to be enough, it's like that. Then the next week you come and you do 6 reps, okay? And place the kettlebell on the floor, rest, 30 seconds, another 6 reps, and so on. And you will have done 60 reps. And you keep increasing the reps week after week, okay? Until you get to 100 reps. So you're going to do 10 reps, set the ball down, rest maybe 5 to 10 seconds, other side, 10 reps, and keep going. And it's a really easy way to do 100 reps in 5 minutes. I have done it before I started kettlebell sport multiple times, and it makes the snatch just really easy, and it's going to keep your heart rate really low. So that's one quick and easy way to do 100 reps. Obviously, if 24 kg is your 5 rep max, okay, you can't do that, okay, you need a certain base. And the second answer I'm going to give you is like a shift in philosophy or mentality, and that's going to try working the kettlebell sport way. And the kettlebell sport way is getting used to relaxing during you do the movement. So in hardstyle, most people are used to like sprint, set the kettlebell down, recover, sprint again, set the kettlebell down, and so on and so forth. In kettlebell sport, we are not allowed to set the kettlebell down. So we have to get really efficient, okay? So we're going to relax while we are moving, okay? Kettlebell overhead at fixation, okay? We're going to relax, we're going to pace ourselves, okay? And that's a whole different mentality, but it's more effective for doing long sets. I'm not saying it's more effective for getting really strong, okay, but for a 5-minute test, a 10-minute test, and the snatch test is a 5-minute test of endurance, it's the most effective way to train. And how do you train for it? You start doing longer sets without putting the bell down, right? Specificity. You start doing fewer hand switches. In kettlebell sport, you can switch hands only one time, okay? And that's going to force you to improve your technique even more. And you start light and work your way up. So you would start doing we would start with 16 kg, okay? Maybe do a 10-minute sets. Switch hand every minute, okay? Don't put the kettlebell down. Okay, now you can do it. Maybe start doing it with fewer hand switches. Maybe start working with 18 or 20 kg and start doing 6-minute sets, 8-minute sets without putting the kettlebell down. Okay, and at some point, if you keep doing that for a year, train the kettlebell sport way, a 5-minute snatch test with 24 kg, it's going to be so easy. You could roll out of bed and do it. Like I could. If you wake me up in the morning, give me 10 minutes to warm up, I can do a 5-minute snatch test with 24 kg guaranteed. So, but that's like the slow route, okay? Hope that answers the question. Next question, Mr. Jason Bourne. If you were training for hypertrophy, which exercises would you do the most and how often? Thanks, thumbs up emoji. Okay, so I'm assuming you are talking about kettlebells. So with kettlebells, I would emphasize double bell work. So 2 kettlebells, not 1, but 2. Why? Because the total load is greater. That means more musculature involved, more systemic stress, and more adaptation. There are a couple exercises that I think would be excellent for hypertrophy, and that's the jerk or long cycle. So jerk is just, okay, keep going with putting the bells from rack to overhead, and long cycle would be doing a clean before each jerk, okay, clean, jerk, and the double half snatch. So that's one of the more modern or newer exercises, okay, but I think it's really underrated. Okay, I've seen Levi from Levi's Harder to Kill training it a lot, and it basically has all the characteristics of the classic kettlebell lifts, like long cycle. So it's explosive, it's full body, but you can still do long sets with it. And double half snatch basically means you have 2 bells, you snatch them overhead, bring them back to the rack, bring them between your legs, and snatch them again. Okay, just type it into YouTube. I think if you trained that movement seriously, you would build a lot of muscle. Then next exercise for hypertrophy, clean and press. Okay, great, like classic, but clean and press, and also the regular press. Okay, with double bells, you're going to get bigger, guaranteed. Also the squat, like double kettlebell front squats. If you have like a pair of heavy-ish kettlebells, like 32s, it's going to tax your legs quite a bit. And also rows. Okay, rows are classic, and you can row kettlebells as well. Okay, you can do single arm rows, gorilla rows, etc. And another thing I would add would be calisthenics. If you look at calisthenics athletes, they are usually very big throughout the upper body. So if you do weighted calisthenics, like if you hang a kettlebell from a dip belt, okay, and do pull-ups, do dips, if you do push-ups, inverted rows, that's going to build muscle as well. Next questions. Garami Tamas asks, what diet are you on? Ryan Provost asks, what is your diet like? Okay, so I'm going to keep this short. I don't follow a special diet. This is maybe a bit of a controversial take, but I think diet is not that important. Okay, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying it's not that important. Most important thing is training. Okay. Second most important thing is sleep. Okay, so you need to sleep and recover, and only after that comes diet. That's my personal opinion. Okay. Some basic dietary recommendations would be to hydrate properly, so drink enough water, eat enough protein, like a minimum of 2 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. And there are some supplements that can help, like I take creatine, and from time to time I take magnesium, zinc, and some niacin, but that's basically it. Okay, I don't really spend a lot of time worrying about diet. Next question. Okay, Hector Martinez 01 asks, hand care tips, how to take care of blisters, calluses after a hard training session, thanks. Mr. Nobody asks, how do you keep your hands fresh and unsmashed without blisters? So that's a great question. I actually just ripped my hands this week during snatches, and I'm going to talk about how to prevent that. So first off, it's going to happen in the beginning. The more you train, the less it's going to happen. Okay, because clean technique is going to reduce the likelihood of it happening. What does clean technique mean? You want to keep the kettlebell handle in the crook of your fingers. Okay, you don't want a deep grip. Okay, a deep grip in the palm. You want it in the crook of the fingers, and that's going to reduce friction. Second thing is, you don't want to over grip the bell, so you don't want to squeeze it hard, especially not while the handle is rotating, because that's going to lead to friction again. How are we going to do that? We're going to apply just enough force so the kettlebell handle doesn't slip out of our hand. Okay, that's correct way. Second thing is, during the transition, so you have your swing, right? Then you have the acceleration pull, where you shift your weight and accelerate the bell upwards, and then you have the hand insertion, where you like open the hand and punch it through. Okay, and during the hand insertion, the handle transitions from the crook of the fingers to where it's laying across the base of the palm in fixation. And during that part of the transition, you have to keep the hand relaxed, okay, because that's where there's friction. Also on the way down, if you snatch hard style and you throw it down straight, there's more friction. You want to point the elbow forward, lean back, and the kettlebell is going to fall on its own. Okay, you don't accelerate it downwards. And then you need to regrip, because as we said, the handle is sitting across the palm, and now it has to go back to the crook of the fingers, right? So how do? We project it forward and regrip it, catch it in the crook of the fingers, okay? And this movement has to be very precise, because otherwise it's going to rip up your hands. Now, can you still rip your hands even though you have good technique? I'm at this point very comfortable with my snatch technique. I think I have quite good technique. Why, Alex, if your technique is so good, why did you rip your hands? Multiple factors. First off, if you're going to fatigue, like if you go to the limit, your grip is going to give out, it's going to fail you, and it's not going to be as relaxed anymore, and it's going to force you to squeeze harder. So by definition, your technique gets worse, but that's because of fatigue, okay? It happens. That's why even high-level people rip their hands. I'm not saying I'm high-level, but even high-level people rip their hands at competition sometimes. The second thing is you want to have dry palms, okay? So you need to use chalk, and the kettlebell handle has to be dry. If there's humidity in summer, the likelihood of ripping your hands is way higher, because again, you need to apply more force because everything is slippery, and that's going to screw up your groove, and again, you're going to rip your hands more. So apply chalk to your hands and also to the kettlebell handle. I can make a video at some point showing how to chalk the handle of the kettlebell. Use good technique, and most important part, live to snatch another day. So like if you want to hit a PR like I did this week, you may just be fine with the fact that you're going to rip your hands. But if you want to snatch tomorrow or the day after tomorrow and you feel your hands are getting a little hot, just say, okay, that's enough for today, and live to snatch another day. Hope that answers the question. Okay guys, this took a lot longer than I expected. I'm going to work on my presentation in the future. Please be patient with me. This was my first YouTube video, the first time talking to a camera. Please, if you have any other questions, I went through about half of the questions. I'm going to do a part 2 where I'm going to answer the other questions. If you have any more questions, please put them in the comments. Please leave a like and also subscribe and press the notification bell button. And also make sure to follow me on Instagram. It's at kettlebell_aerobics. And thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. Thanks for your questions. And I hope I'm going to see you soon. Take care.